interesting conversation on the Cosmic Confluence podcast, where we talk about something that is really different, actually, about energy, about um, bridging the mystical with the practical, and also uncover ways to live more connected, soulful lives. Now, I'm your host, Sana, as always. And listeners, today we are going to dive into a topic we all grapple with at some point. How do we trust those quiet intuitive nudges when making big, crucial, important decisions in relationships, life, and even business? And listeners, let me introduce my guest to all of you, Julie Heaton. And she knows this terrain very well and deeply. She's an author, a transformational mentor, voice reclaimer, and also the creator of the book Roar, a guided journey to reclaim your voice, own your story, align with truth, and radiate from within. And listeners, Julie's work is rooted in helping people break free from inherited stories, reconnect with their own truth, and live from a place of deep self trust. And today she's going to share insights with lived experiences on using intuition as a reliable compass when life feels messy or uncertain. We'll talk about how to discern between fear and intuition, what to do when intuitive nudges challenge logic, and how to weave that inner guidance into real world action. All of them such brilliant, such profound aspects of our day to day life. So let's quickly get into it. And Julie, welcome to the show. And as always, it is such an honor to have you with us.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I love these shows, so glad to be here.
Really, and I'm so much learning about intuition, and I think could be because of the aspect of graying, maturity, gaining more and more real life experiences. But I really strongly believe in trusting my intuition. And you talk about learning to trust our inner voice. So when we talk about real world, Julie, especially in business or high stakes life situations, most of the times we rely on logic and data because um, what we see is what we are trusting, something like that. So how do you personally discern when to follow an intuitive nudge versus a more logical path?
It took it took me years to trust my inner voice. I mean, I believe when we're younger, it's easier for us to do it. The stakes don't seem quite as high. So we think, oh, even as small things like I'm gonna go meet this girlfriend. I'm gonna go do this.
Mhm.
We flow. We generally flow easier before kids and career and things. And then once kids and career or just kids come in, the stakes get a little higher. And we start listening to public opinion more than we start trusting our own voice because it's all new terrain. So, there's no perfect way to be. So what happens is we get into these new terrains and then we doubt our voice. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is right. I don't know. We start doubting. And for me personally, had a corporate career, like you said. I was in it for 30 years and um, was very successful at it. But at some point, I really stopped listening to that inner pang, that voice that said, I don't think so, or do this, or you should speak
Mhm.
up. And what happens when you stop listening to it is it gets quieter. So it's even harder to hear. So when you want to like get your intuition back, you got to sit and in the stillness and let go of all the expectations, all the things people tell you, all the self-doubt and just sit in silence and see if you can call back your own intuitions and then trust it. Those gentle nudges, those things that say, you should call that friend today or sell that stock or whatever the little nudge is,
Hmm.
trust it. Show the universe, show God, show whatever your higher source is that you trust and lean into it and just start making decisions from that place of knowingness in your own body. And most of us find that place of knowingness that we call it the gut, in our gut. That's
Yeah.
kind of where that knowingness lives. And so sometimes it's a physical response, and sometimes it's a word that just gets stuck in your throat that you want to say.
Yeah.
And so it's just really leaning into your divine goddess, into your co-creating with the universe.
Mm.
Nobody knows more than you about you. So why are we outsourcing all of our choices and our thoughts and our decisions? It's it's a little crazy when you start to think about it. We're all different. We're all different. We all have different paths. And so what your path isn't what my path is, and what you're here to say isn't what I'm here to say. So
Mm.
it's important that we all follow our own inner guidance, our own GPS.
Exactly. I love that how you connected it with the, kind of, it's a um figurative word, inner GPS. I really love that. And Julie, uh, I'll come to your journey, but before that, just a quick question, comes into my mind that is intuition or these inner nudges, the inner voice, is it uh, li- uh you know uh, going towards more of a feminine energy or going more towards the sensitivity aspect, because when we are more rational, we look towards more of logic and data. We could say that, oh my goodness, my intuition is, like, I'm judging my intuition. It's telling me that this is wrong, but the data absolutely looks fine. Everything is fine. Then I may be wrong. So I shouldn't even listen to it. I mean, how do we navigate through that?
That is such a profound question. We all have divine feminine and divine masculine. We're all a combination of different parts.
Yeah.
And I would say definitely intuition falls more into the creative sphere of life, where you have
Mhm.
to let rational thinking go and really lean in to the miracles and the limitlessness of the universe, the divine. Our rational thinking puts limits and stops on us, it like that's not going to work because that's never going to happen because of that. That's what our rational mind will tell us. No one's ever done it, or too many people are doing it, or whatever.
Mm.
The intuition tells us it doesn't matter. There's no limits on you. Your rational mind is putting limits on you, but I have no limits on you. So if you listen to your intuition, it's going to lead you higher. And I will say, in my opinion, that's more divine feminine
Mm-hmm.
that men and women have. For those people who are kind of new to divine energy, there's, like I said earlier, there's masculine and there's feminine energy, and we just kind of um, lean into the side of trust and compassion for ourselves and connection and embrace the unknown.
Yeah, that's beautifully put, Julie. And once again, now once again something once again comes in my mind. So often we have heard this word sixth sense. Um, uh, it's kind of I've encountered it rarely, but um, when I've encountered it, I have really actually kind of been bewildered or maybe surprised that, sometimes there are people who have very strong sixth sense or strong intuition. Something wrong is going to happen, something good is there, or this is going to happen. Maybe this particular um, um, company or workplace I'm joining may not be good for me.
Mm.
And somehow that turns to be true. So, how would you connect intuition with sixth sense?
Well, in my opinion, they're the same.
Mm.
Your intuition is it's your divining rod. It tells you the truth. It always tells you the truth. So when we don't listen to our intuition, we're going against what we know in our body and soul is true. So that feeling you're talking about, and kind of that knowingness, is your intuition. It's saying to you, "Hey, don't take that job. It's not going to be the right path for you." But you take it anyway because it's more money, or it's this, or it's that, or it's right by your house, all the things. And then you spend 6 months or a year or 5 years in that job because you took it and it's just what you're doing. And, you kinda until you learn whatever lesson it is you're going to learn at that job. But, I'll tell you, speaking of jobs and careers, one thing people that worked for me would always tease me about. Conducted a lot of interviews,
Mm.
and I would pick I always picked off my instinct, and I would help people I knew were the right fit in the interview by asking the right questions for them. But
Yeah.
but then sometimes I would get sucked in to someone seemingly perfect. Like, this is this guy's perfect, and I'd be dumb not to hire him. He fits all the boxes and blah blah blah. And I am not kidding. Every time I hired somebody based on what everybody else was telling me, it failed every time. Every time, and it was failed tragically, like it would be some huge, huge bad hire. When in my gut, I knew from the beginning, this person isn't right. It doesn't even matter what their background is, what what they can bring to the table, because there's something not right. But I wouldn't there's just few times where I would go against it because it was so compelling. The facts were so compelling why this would be a good fit for us, when I knew it wasn't. So it's the same thing. You always know if you listen. It takes a while to build that muscle inside yourself if you've been shutting it out. It's like I said
Mhm.
earlier, if you haven't been using your intuition, if you've just been doing what you're told, or following the rules, or whatever,
Mhm.
it's like any other muscle in your body. It takes a while to build it back up and to trust it. So it takes meditation and quiet and little yeses when the world says you should say no. And it just kind of it takes a while until that intuition is loud enough where you can hear it over the loud voices around you.
True, true. And that's a very, very um, obvious example of how intuition can actually help in making you know, good decisions. And Julie, since you talked about your career, your life in the beginning, and now you have built in such a way that it feels deeply aligned. However, were there any moments when following your intuition felt risky? Like you might lose something important by trusting it?
100%. The thing the thing is, if you're going to take steps forward and
Mhm.
advocate for yourself and live a life that's fully aligned in your truth, you are going to lose things that don't fit anymore, things that were holding you back from going forward. And when you lose those things, it, A, it's painful, and B, it feels scary. Like, oh no, am I headed in the right direction? Should I go back? Is this a stop sign? And that's when your intuition is especially important. You need to know what's right for you, not for everybody else. What's right for you, and what's going to bring your life full circle? What's going to bring you to where you need to be in this life. What's your purpose and your dharma? And all the things that don't align with that purpose and dharma, they fall away. They n- and sometimes it's a painful thing. So I will say yes, absolutely. There is there was a lot of times for me personally where I I left a career, a successful career where um I was doing rather well and I had no idea what I was going to do. I didn't know what I wanted. I had zero clue. I just knew that wasn't for me anymore and I wasn't going to find what I needed until I could quiet everything down. I had buried the truth of who I am under so many expectations of others and so many stories and wishes that people had on me that by the time I quit, it took me a while, a couple of years to like unravel all the stories and figure out what I really want and who I really am and what brings me joy and peace. And so yes, in that process, it was scary. But I kept listening. I kept pulling forward. I kept listening. And that doesn't mean I didn't have times where I cried or I sat on the couch and thought, what am I doing? I did. Of course I did. But I let myself grieve and I let myself feel and then I listened to my intuition again. I just kept taking steps forward. I kept leaning into the feelings that were coming up, exploring them, letting myself know you're okay. You're right where you're supposed to be. And then I would take the next step forward, look forward. That's how I got through all those scary moments. It is scary when you're living a life off script. When you start going rogue on people's own limitations of what people think you should be doing, it's it's new territory. It's very scary.
It's definitely. It is. It is, Julie. And especially when, you have decided to kind of, trek towards something which is not conventional. Maybe your family, your loved ones, or your acquaintances would not accept the fact that you are taking a big risk. But you know it very well that yes, this is something which my inner voice is saying, do it, take it, or just and I think that particular kind of moment where we are vulnerable, yet we are so decisive. We have that clarity. I think that is something that really, really defines us. It really gives us a, kind of a mirror to look into and kind of do a lot of introspection. And I think that really brings closer to ourselves.
I I agree. I mean, my the first 2 years after I left that career, it was almost all introspection and inner work and
Mhm.
kind of just like I said, unraveling, figuring out who I am under everybody else's story and really just owning my own voice, you know. That's why I wrote Roar. It's all the things, you know, it is a reclamation. It's coming back to yourself in such a way that you live an unapologetic life, that you live life on your terms, and it doesn't matter what anybody else says about it because it's not their life. So
True.
I I will say that the ability, the time, the grace I had for myself really came full circle with this new book and the way I feel about life and the way I feel about myself in my own body, in my own life. It's it takes time and practice to live in an apologetic life, but there's nothing like it. There's no going back for me. I'll never be in a position where I'm adjusting myself to fit somebody else's box.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is really, really empowering. It can be sometimes a very hard call. Um, and apart from the professional side of our lives. I think I lean towards more again the personal side. Sometimes we have to let go of some relationships. We have to set boundaries. We have to communicate very clearly, but with definitely respect and gratitude that
Mm.
I need to focus on myself. Then only I can move forward and focus on others as well. I think it's a hard call. Relationships are layered. Intuition doesn't always come with instructions. So I really find that reflection empowering, Julie.
100%, you nailed it. I did lose family members. I had people that I talked to almost every day that I don't talk to anymore. And I did have to put really strong boundaries in for myself to acclimate to this new. I didn't want input until I knew what my own input was. And that really upset people. When you change who you are, it changes the dynamics of all the people around you. And they either accept those changes and grow with you, or they accept the changes in you and stay the same, which is great, or they don't accept those changes. They don't like it. And so you have a choice on how you're going to handle that. And my choice through this whole thing has been listening to my own intuition and taking my own route regardless of the fallout. I accept the fallout to I accept the fallout to be my own person, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, Julie. Absolutely. I am such a strong advocate of that. I own my mistakes. I also communicate to my loved ones that I know it's my mistake, and I am clear how to get this done. And I think that to me it has come with age. If I would have said this when I were a teenager or in college, then my parents would have straight away told me, "Oh, you don't know anything about life." Oh, don't even say that. So yeah, I'll once again circle back to the first part of our conversation. I I mean, we all have with ex-
I lost you for a minute.
yeah. Can you hear me now?
I can, yeah.
Yeah. So, in such situations, Julie, and I'm not bringing in even age into this. Sometimes it is possible that everything is going wrong in our lives. Um, at that time, it's kind of, it's natural that we won't even trust our inner voice. We'll kind of, have a lot of judgment about our own decisions, our own capabilities, our own existence as well. And that's such a difficult situation to be in, unfortunately. So, in such scenarios, what would you, say about trusting our intuition?
You wouldn't be in the situation you are if you had trusted your intuition from the beginning. I'll say that first. It sounds harsh, but it's true.
Yeah.
I remember when I was younger, really young, before like in my teens, and I had a really strong intuition and I was a bit of a rebel. And then as I got older, as you say, you make mistakes, you have problems, and you begin to trust yourself a little less and less and less.
Mhm.
And that's by the time I was ready to trust my intuition, I didn't even have it anymore, like I said. And so I'd say to people that are in that place of transition where they just feel like they can't go any lower, where they're just not happy and things aren't good, that's the time. That's the time to learn how to meditate. And I'm not, you don't have to throw yourself in the deep end with meditation. You can start with a guided meditation. You could start with walks in nature. You just get out of your own head so you can hear what your intuition has to say. That's the point of meditation. So, my first step would be find somewhere where you can get out of your own worries, out of your own problems, out of your own voice repeating itself. Quiet your mind, whatever way that is you do it. Then I would add in journaling. Journaling is, it takes your it goes to your unconscious. You could if you just free form write or journal after you meditate, don't think about what
Mhm.
you're saying, don't think about your writing, just write. You'll have you'll have more intuition. You'll have your intuition will guide your writing, I should say. It will tell you what's going on inside of you. If you make this a practice and do it continually, you'll see your you'll start to hear your voice a little more and a little more and a little more. And then it is literally just trusting it. It's trusting what it's telling you, even when it's scary, and actually, especially when it's scary.
Lovely, lovely. Julie, that was really, really thoughtful and simple yet so profound. So, if our listeners they would like to connect with you and get a hold of your book and the wonderful resources you're providing, what would be the best way?
My website, for sure, it's hellojulieheaton.com. I'd be glad to see anybody there.
Mm. Absolutely. I'll make sure to have all the links and details in the show notes. And Julie, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your lived experiences, and for showing us that the inner voice we all have is worth listening to. I believe intuition isn't just for the gifted, it is available to all of us if we are willing to practice. So, thank you so much for giving us that space to accept.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I love this topic. And you're right, intuition is a gift for everybody. We all have it. We just have to harness it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to all the beautiful listeners out there, just go to Julie's website, check out her book Roar and the Manifestor's Playbook. I'll mention all the details in the show notes, and I'll just wrap up this conversation with one quick question for all of you. What's one intuitive nudge you have been ignoring? Maybe this conversation is your sign to take the next small step. Until next time, keep listening, keep trusting, and keep honoring the quiet wisdom within. This is Sana, and you have been listening to Cosmic Confluence. Thank you.